Hi, ConnectWise partners and the MSP community. We're here today to talk about M&A, mergers and acquisitions. I'm Angus Robertson with ConnectWise Marketing. I'm also a partner and fractional CMO at Chief Outsiders. Chief Outsiders supports more than 150 private equity firms and their portfolio companies. We have a special guest here today to share his insights on M&A and also at IT Nation Connect, coming up very shortly, some of the key sessions that we're going to be covering. For the few in the channel that don't already know who you are, Arlin, welcome. And can you share a little bit about your background?
Absolutely, Angus. It's great to be with you today. I'm Arlin Sorenson. I am a VP of Ecosystem Evangelism at ConnectWise and get to spend my time helping partners be successful in their MSP journey. I ran an MSP for 27 years, HTS across the Midwest. We were 5 states, 7 locations, and sold that back in 2012 so I could focus my time on HTG peer groups, which we had founded. And we grew that up until 2018 when we were acquired by ConnectWise, and I've been part of the ConnectWise team ever since then. It's now IT Nation Evolve, which serves about almost 1,000 members now across the globe. And I'm excited to be going to IT Nation Connect and all the stuff we've got lined up for M&A. I did 8 M&As in my journey, and so I'm excited to share what I've learned, and we got a powerhouse set of sessions lined up.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be a great show. We have more MSPs than ever, more sessions than ever, and some great tracks or topics covering M&A or sessions covering M&A. Before we dive in and talk a little bit more about those M&A sessions, for the MSPs on the call who will be watching later, Arlin, can you share your perspectives on why MSPs should be thinking about M&A and when is a good time for MSPs to think about M&A?
Absolutely. You know, when you should start thinking about it's a lot like when you should have planted the tree, right? Now's the time. It takes a while to really get your company ready for a transaction, either side, whether you're buying or selling. And so it's time to begin that process, you know, as soon as possible. The one thing that we all know that's going to happen is everybody exits their business in some form or fashion. A lot of us sell our companies to someone else, but even if we're going to transfer it to family or put it in an ESOP or some kind of, employee-owned structure, we still want to have the most effective and valuable company that we can create. And so the time to start on that process is now. And that's what these sessions at IT Nation Connect are all about, is how we help you get ready for that day.
Yeah, and Arlin, you spoke about valuing a company. I think that's really important as well as an MSP, whatever their exit, whatever the MSP strategy, year in, year out, thinking about that enterprise value. Can you share a little bit about your thoughts on building enterprise value and how MSPs should be considering that?
Absolutely. We are all in the business of creating business value, and in the MSP world today, the big driver is EBITDA or profitability. And I think that's true in any industry. People buy businesses because they expect they're going to be able to pay for those businesses with the profits that are generated. And so, the number one way you can create business value is to run a consistently profitable company. And there's a number of ways that you can do that and enhance that. But at the end of the day, that's the most important driver. Then your team that you assemble, their skill sets, the customer base you serve, the leadership team you've got in place. There's a number of other factors that add to that basic foundational EBITDA value. But it takes time to do it. One of the big mistakes I see, Angus, is people, they'll call and say, "Hey, we're ready to sell. Can we pull this off, like next week?" And, the answer is you can sell a business anytime, but you can't maximize its value without some planning and some time to work on it. So I encourage people, 2 or 3 years before you want to exit, it's time to really focus and really focus on driving that business value.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. And one last question before we dive into some of the sessions. When you look at the industry over the past several years and what's happening in 2023 and what you see going into 2024, are there any significant M&A trends that you're noticing or anything that's been going on for a while that you think will continue to happen or increase?
Well, certainly, the economy has changed in the last 12 to 18 months. And, a lot of people think, well, that's got to be impacting valuations in the MSP M&A space. It really is kind of the tale of two stories here. The companies that are larger, that have got larger amounts of EBITDA, that, are consistently producing that, are maintaining values. The EBITDA multiples are not falling on the higher end or the larger size companies because there just aren't that many out there today. So supply and demand is really driving that. We are seeing a little bit of softness in the smaller companies especially that have got $500,000 or less of EBITDA. Those are a bit softer. So it's kind of a tale of two different situations, but the reality is well-run companies are always going to have significant value in this space. There's no question the market has shown us that MSPs are essential, and those companies are going to maintain value and be a hot commodity for the foreseeable future.
Absolutely. I mean, I was just looking at some statistics recently, and in North America, you can argue that small and medium-sized businesses are the lifeblood of the economy. It's roughly half of our workforce. And for those SMBs to be successful, they have to continue to digitally transform. And MSPs, with their technical expertise and local service, are best positioned to help SMBs continue to digitally transform. And over the decades, we've had a number of technology disruptors, and we're in the middle of quite a big one right now when it comes to artificial intelligence and generative AI. So SMBs are going to have to figure that out, and MSPs are in a great position to help guide them on that journey. And that's obviously something we're going to be talking a lot about at IT Nation Connect. But with that, let's dive into some of the sessions we have at IT Nation Connect. And for anybody on the call or LinkedIn Live right now, feel free to ask your questions in the comments, and as they come up, we'll keep our eyes open for them. But first off, I think we have a session that Joe Peneteri is facilitating with Abe Garver, Mike Hoffman, Peter Kajawa, and Mitch Morgan on the state of M&A in the TSP channel. Can you share some more details on what we'll cover there, Arlin?
Absolutely. I mean, we've asked 5 of the folks that we think have got great crystal ball reads in front of them to share what they see going on out there. And, inflation has certainly been a factor. The interest rates are certainly a factor. This panel will talk about some of those factors, what they see the impact being currently and what they project it to be going forward. Like anything, you can't outguess the market, and you shouldn't try to figure out when you should sell your MSP. You should just get it ready and have it the business value created that you want. But these guys will be talking about some of those influences and what we should be doing in terms of preparing our businesses to maximize the result.
Got it. The next session we have on the table sounds like a fun one. 10 things you need to know to have a successful sale. And this is with Lisa Mitchell, Ramsey Sahun, George Sergio, Scott Scroggin, and Reed Warren. So what are some of these 10 things that are important from a getting to a sale perspective?
Yeah, so Scott will be facilitating this panel, and it's a mix of partners and of industry experts that are going to be sharing their perspective on what they see really working to help people maximize value. And, I think a lot of it's going to boil down to really one word, and that is plan. What we find is that those that plan ahead and really put in place a plan, create a target that they're trying to generate in terms of business value creation. And then over time, a few years, put in place those strategies to help them get there are the ones that really maximize the outcome. And so, Reed and George are both broker types, valuation folks that will help partners think through what those things look like. Ramsey has been a huge buyer of MSPs. Evergreen, I think, now has over 70 portfolio companies. And Lisa is one of those companies that has exited to Evergreen. So we got a really strong panel that will share their insights and what they see working for partners in the industry. I know that as Scott prepared, he asked them each to send in 5, and he got like 50 suggestions. So they're a very wise and knowledgeable group, and there's plenty of things that they'll have to talk about at the session.
That sounds like a great one with such an experienced panel where, as you said, from a valuation standpoint, you've got to have that plan that's 2 or 3 years out. So get that stake in the ground, and this panel is going to be able to give the audience a few of those things to think about in terms of how to construct that plan. Okay.
Well, and the thing to think about is that even if you don't sell in 2 to 3 years, doing all those right things is going to reap a benefit for you along that journey. So it's a great investment, whether you want to sell or not. Driving business value is what you want to be focused on.
Right. The more business value you have in your business, in your MSP, the more options and flexibility you're going to have at your fingertips.
Absolutely.
Okay. I know this is one that you have a passion for, Arlin. So next on the list, we have the Empire Builder Journey, and with Rashad Bajwa, Kevin Blake, Kevin Cook, Ross Sardi, and of course, yourself. So what will you be covering in this panel?
Yeah, I'll be facilitating these 4 very strong leaders and experienced operators as we talk about the Empire Builder Journey. It's part of our modes theory system. And, modes theory is going to be foundational as we go through the IT Nation Connect event. All the sessions are going to be marked based on modes that are appropriate, most appropriate to attend. But the Empire Builders are, a very unique group, and they've really kind of sprung up in the last few years as a significant amount of private equity and outside investment has come into the market. So Pete Sorenson has been working diligently for the last year or so to really map out the transitions that have to take place if you're going to be as successful as an Empire Builder. And so we look at it from kind of pre-platform stage, when companies begin to make that decision that I really want to go faster. For me to do that, I have to bring in some outside investment to help support what we're doing. So we start there. We look at what it really takes to become a platform company. And then what happens on that journey as a platform company as you get ready to go into that second level of investment at the second turn. And so we've got a really detailed set of steps that people go through, and our panel will really express what they learned as they found those things out and executed them in their journey to become a strong Empire Builder.
And Arlin, do you have any examples you can share of MSPs that are good examples of being Empire Builders and some of the key steps that they took along the way?
Well, I mean, all 4 of these operators are on that journey. Integris, Rashad, he built his MSP originally, bringing together a couple of different SMB partners, and they combined their businesses to start down that journey toward becoming a platform. Along the way, they acquired, a handful of other companies to help fuel their growth, but they also focused on maintaining their organic growth structure. So one of the fallacies about, what people think about Empire Builders is all they do is just go acquire stuff. Well, I can tell you that private equity prefers organic growth to acquisition growth because it's less expensive. And, organic growth is really the engine that they're trying to really pour the fuel on. So, all these companies have built a strong growth sales engine themselves, and then they layer that on with the acquisition. So, Kevin Blake has been focused on building a strong leadership team. One of the things that you learn on that empire builder journey is that you got to have strong C-level leaders, and you don't necessarily have those when you're a little bit smaller and don't have the dollars to invest there. So, all these guys have got unique things that they've gone through. Ross is from Australia, and he'll be joining us. And he's still owned by a private owner. So they have not taken external capital, but he's doing the same exact things and trying to grow rapidly. They're just using their own internal funds to do that. So empire builders don't always have external funding, but a lot of them do make that choice at some point along the ride.
Yeah, it's a really important insight you shared on that balance between inorganic and organic growth, and how you fund that inorganic and organic growth as well. So great. So our next session, we talked about what you need to know to have a successful sale, but then there's also the truth about life after the sale. And this is with Dave Kava, Jameson West, and again with yourself. So what are some of the highlights our audience can learn about truth after the sale?
Yeah, and there are a couple other folks that'll be on that panel, Jake Spanberger and David Mulvey. All of these folks have had an exit, and the thing that's been very interesting to watch, Angus, is that when you're running a MSP, you are consumed by that MSP. You know exactly what's going to happen every day when you wake up in the morning. There's a list of problems that you're trying to solve, and when you get to the point of selling that organization or transferring it to someone else, you wake up in the morning and it's like, what am I going to do with my time? Most people are not developing, hobbies and doing all kinds of things to prepare for life after an exit. It's an emotional roller coaster. And, these guys have all been there and experienced that, and they're going to share, the lessons they've learned. It's hard on families. Often I'm told by the spouse that, I managed this house for the last 20 or 30 years on my own. And now this guy shows up that now wants to micromanage how I manage the house. I don't really need his help. Right. So it's an interesting process that we go through when we do an exit. And it's an important thing to be thinking about as part of the process, because I hear from a lot of folks that have made that transition, and it was a rough ride for the first year or two. And I'll never forget a young guy that sold his company for way more money than he ever thought he was going to earn. And about 6 months later, I asked him to come speak to one of the groups, and he said, "I've never been this miserable in my entire life." Wow. Because I get up in the morning and I don't have a purpose. And so, that's a really important thing for everybody to think about, is that at some point you are going to exit, and you need to plan ahead and have a strategy. People tell me, I'm going to play golf, I'm going to watch Netflix, and I'm going to travel. And I check in with them a month or two later, and it's like, yeah, that was okay for a week or two, but now what? And so it's important. It's very emotional, and it matters, because you've got the next chapter of your life to live, and you need to have a plan.
Yeah, these empire builders aren't built for Netflix and golf, huh?
No, not at all. Okay. Not at all.
Well, our last session is facilitated by our own Tony Thomas, with Lori Berry, Lauren Kane, Peter Melby, Tony Miller, Rajab Gadala, and it's on industry disruptors. So what will we be covering in this last M&A session we're highlighting today?
So, M&A is certainly an industry disruptor. It's been going on, in mass the last few years. So that's one of the things that they'll talk about. But they're also going to touch on AI, automation, digital transformation, some of the things that are on our doorstep right now, actually, that are going to change what happens in the way MSPs function. It's going to change the valuation models. As companies build some IP around AI and automation, that's going to increase valuations for companies. So
Right.
it's all tied together here. A lot of the trends that are disrupting the industry are also very much tied to valuations. So Tony will lead that conversation, and they'll have a great interaction around what some of those things are and how we can use those to help drive business value creation and prepare for an even better exit than people are getting today.
Well, this has been great, Arlin. Thank you for sharing your insights and on M&A, and excited to see you at IT Nation Connect and hear you present on some of these panels. As a takeaway, there's a couple more things to talk about. I think we have a mixer that we have at IT Nation Connect, and there's also next year we'll have a boot camp in Tampa. Is that right?
That is correct. So on Thursday evening at IT Nation Connect, we're going to have a M&A mixer. So if you're interested in coming and rubbing shoulders with other people that are in the process of some type of transaction, just find your account manager or myself or anybody on the ConnectWise team, and we can give you details on where to go for that. And then in March 2024, the 5th and 6th, we are going to host a M&A boot camp in Tampa. It'll be at our headquarters building in downtown. And it's really targeted at people that are preparing for or starting to think about getting their business ready for a transaction. Not for folks that want to do it in the next 12 to 18 months, but people that are 2 to 5 years down the road. They're starting to think about, what should I be doing today to get my business ready? And there are things you can start to do 3 to 5 years ahead of time to make that transition better and easier. So we'll have 2 days of really in-depth content. We're bringing in a dozen or so industry experts that all they do is help people with M&A all day. And it'll be 2 very full days of content that will prepare people for the future and what's going to be part of their future success.
Well, fantastic. Look forward to seeing everybody at IT Nation Connect, and think about your business value and make sure to join in on these M&A sessions with these panelists with a lot of experience who've been there right where you've been, and how to create that business value for yourself. But thanks again, Arlin. It's been great talking with you.
Thank you, Angus. We'll look forward to seeing people in Orlando in a few weeks.
That was great.